Welcome, everyone, to the show, Raising Unstoppable Teens. I'll be your host for the next 30 minutes. I'm Dr. Kimberly Shear, teen breakthrough expert, and I am delighted to be interviewing our guest, Fabien Edjou. And so welcome. And
Thank you.
yes, and thank you so much for taking time out to be here and to be with
Well,
us
thank you
and
so
share.
much for having me. I'm so delighted to be here.
I'm excited. So I would like to just briefly give our listeners a background on Fabien. He was born in Cameroon. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yep, correct.
Okay. Africa. He was raised by a single mother, and he started living on his own at the young age of 13. He is a highly decorated retired U.S. Army officer who was deployed 3 times and served as a senior HR officer for the 97th Training Brigade. Despite going through several existential life struggles, such as business disappointments, friends' abandonment, divorce, homelessness, debt, he's never stopped being happy. And his desire is to help others to grow even stronger. He hosts the show on Revelations and Wonders, Secrets to Life and Happiness on VoiceAmerica World Radio. He has devoted his retirement from the military to spreading a message of hope and happiness with a unique way of removing any perceived complexity in life by explaining with an incredible simplicity and clarity the causes for our daily struggles. His audience consider him a true beacon of light. Just you
Yes.
right now are radiating, so I would agree with that. And that he brings great joy to the world.
Well,
So
thank
let's
you.
warmly welcome Fabien. And again, I'm so delighted to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm so delighted to be here, Dr. Kimberly. So I'm
Yeah.
so excited to be here.
And I want to also thank you for your service in
Thank you.
protecting our country.
Thank you. It was my honor.
Okay. So I'd like to begin with, what is your explanation of the dynamic or relationship between parents and teens?
Yes. So, the problem is that when we talk about relationship within the family or parents and team, we forget that there's a 2 aspect of it, right? There's a spiritual and a physical aspect. So on a spiritual level, there's no really notion of spiritual heredity. That means a parent does not give a piece of their spirit to the child, right? So what that means is that the child come to a family as a perfect stranger, spiritually speaking. So through the process of incarnation, they may come as, maybe some link that have to do with their previous karma or just some sort of affinities. That's what brings the kid to the family. Now, there's a physical heredity in the sense that both parents, when they actually give birth, that body is given to the child for its incarnation within the family. So that's a process that allowed the spirit to incarnate into that little body and then be born inside that family. So when you take all those into consideration, then you have to understand that you're trying to take a holistic approach in dealing with a human being who is both physically and spiritually.
I love that. So I have a question with that. Do you believe that spiritually we're born with a purpose or a calling or something that really tugs at our hearts to contribute to the world?
100%, 100%. There's no such thing as random in life, okay? Every single human being who comes to earth has a purpose. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, okay? For the most part, the purpose is actually a spiritual goal, a higher goal. But unfortunately, we get so caught up on a daily occurring that we tend to forget and just focus on trying to, put food on the table, try to do all these earthly necessity. But if you think beyond that, then you start understanding that you as a human being, you have a gift, you have a talent. And that talent needs to be identified, need to be nurtured, need to be blossomed so that you can share it with the world. Because truly that's where value is. All these other things are so temporarily and ephemeral that that's why even when you die, it doesn't go with you 6 feet under, right? Everything is left behind and you return just by yourself. So yes, I do believe that there's a purpose for us to be born here.
That is so beautiful. I obviously believe that as well, and that we're gifted with gifts and talents,
Yes.
and certain strengths, and truly have our own unique way of being in the
Yes.
world. And from my perspective too, I feel like we are born into this world curious and playful,
Yes.
fun, and
Yes.
then it's really going through the motions of life.
Yes.
That then it's logic.
Yes.
It's about kind of being right versus
Yes.
wrong, and we get out of touch of that inner knowing, so to speak.
Yes.
And I think for teens, because I really value values and strengths
Yes.
in with the, what do I want to say, in combination with purpose. But
Yes.
I feel like it's, so for a lot of teens, it's really hard to first know
Yes.
what that inner calling is. They once
Yes.
had it, but it's so layered under, all this other stuff and our beliefs and our conditioning. So it's
Yes.
one, kind of trying to tap back into that. And then
Yes.
two, to really trust it. Because now we're
Absolutely.
scared because we've been so alienated from it for years, or we're
Yes.
being told, no, you go to a 9 to 5 and this is how you
Yes.
make money, and then you budget
Correct.
and that kind of thing, instead of
Yes.
saying, handstands make my heart sing, so how can I
That's
make
right.
business out of doing handstands?
Yes, absolutely. And if you don't mind me just adding to what you just so beautifully said.
Thank you.
So think about it in terms of, you know, your gift and your talent.
Mm,
Ultimately, your gift and your talent can only be fully expressed doing a specific things.
mm,
So if your gift is like, the right vehicle to release your gift is to become a doctor,
mm.
then you should be able to feel the passion for it.
Right.
And as you go to school, you have to follow that passion because that's really the strength that really connects you to that gift. And if you have a passion for something, I promise you, there's nothing that can stop you from reaching that goal. But if you just go through the motion without any strong belief and passion for whatever it is that you're doing, the likelihood is that you will never feel fulfilled. You will always seek something that is not there. And that's why it's very important to remove the layers that you were mentioning about and follow that passion.
Ah, I love it. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh boy. Well, the teenage years are some of the most difficult times, and when I
Yes.
think about it, it's difficult for not only the teen but obviously the parent.
Correct.
And just on the teen side, I look at adolescence as it's a first for so many experiences.
Correct.
School demands are increasing the further on you get and get into college. You learn to drive. Oftentimes, you have your first romantic relationship, your first romantic
Yes.
breakup, um, trying to figure out where you kind of fit in, what your identity is, your peers, and all of that. And then you have pressure,
Yes.
expectations at home from your family, from your parents, as well as other authority figures. I mean, maybe you look up to a teacher and they obviously have certain expectations. Oh, and you got to worry about your grades. So there's a lot that teens have anyway. So can you just explain a little bit about your perspective on these challenging times for both the parent and the teen and their relationship?
Absolutely. And this is why it's critical for both parent and teens to fully try to grasp what I said earlier about the holistic person, right? Both the spiritual and the physical. Because there are three phases in this growth path. At a very early childhood, there's this parent-child relationship, which is absolutely normal. The child needs the parents' protection and guidance, which is really what the parents are to be doing during that time. So to the point where the body has now become a little bit more mature and the spirit start to feel like it wants to express itself. That's really where the critical balance needs to really need to transition from a parent-child relationship towards a friendship. Okay. What that means is the struggle that the teenage is actually experiencing is the fact that the spirit is so ready to go out and try to become what it is intended to be. But also it's struggling with the reality, the pragmatic reality that the parents are trying to protect it. The parents are also trying to give them the wisdom that they have accumulated over the years, right? And it's that little dynamic that makes it so difficult. One wants to pull away, what the other one says, no, you're not ready. You still have to be here. You know, you got to follow me. And so it's very important that for the parents to understand one thing is that the only reason why they acquire all these wisdom and knowledge is because they went through life experiences. So it's also important for them then to leave the child also follow that path. It may be painful to watch, it may be so difficult, but it's the necessary path for them to also accumulate the same type of experiences and wisdom so that they can eventually fly on their own and become mature individual. So that is really where the struggle lies and how to address it, really.
That was beautifully stated and just warms my heart because it's so true. And you're a parent, I'm a parent, and
Yes,
so that's tough
it is
sometimes.
difficult. It is
You know,
very
we want to
difficult.
jump in and we want to
Yes,
like spare them. However, um, that really is disempowering them,
yes,
really telling them not to trust
yes,
uh,
yes.
their some of their choices, even though they may not be the best.
They don't have to be the
Learn.
best. You
Mhm.
know, they don't have to be the best because ultimately the ultimate goal is to learn.
Right.
The best way to learn is by doing.
Hmm.
So when you do and you realize that what you did not bring joy, happiness, satisfaction, then what that means, and the beautiful thing about life is that history always repeats itself. What does that mean? Is that if you didn't do it right today, you may have a chance to redo it again so long as you're still alive. So you will learn from this experience and it will make you a better person next time. So the more of these experiences you're going through, the better off you become, the stronger you become, you know? So it's very important and very critical, in my opinion.
Yes, and I love that. And I think you said it in a more poetic way, but we can always choose again. And we don't know to choose again unless we choose and
Yes,
realize that didn't produce the intended outcome. So
correct.
now what are some other possibilities out there?
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. And
so
that's cool. That's cool. And that's life at its best.
yeah, yeah. No, and I think there's a quote. I don't know if it was Henry Ford, but and I may get it wrong, but it's something. Um, the only failure is to
Yes,
not have learned
absolutely.
from
And
mistakes.
it's 100% true.
Yeah,
Nobody fails so long as you're still learning.
that's right. Yeah, no, I
Yes.
I definitely agree with that. Um, okay, so what do you think are some fundamental skills that
Mhm.
parents can begin with um, their children at a younger age to help them to become empowered and fulfilled and my favorite word, unstoppable?
Unstoppable. That's beautifully said. So ultimately, it's resiliency, right? To
Mhm,
become being resilient. Everybody can understand the meaning of being resilient.
mhm,
But unfortunately, what happened is that we start really talking about the notion of resiliency when the kid is, going through this, transition phase or when they become adult.
mhm,
But from, honestly, they have to start being taught resiliency since birth. Okay. And how do you do that? It's just a simple notion of compensation. So compensation is the first step to resiliency. What that means is the kid, even since birth, like let's say a baby is born, he's crying, you don't have to just jump in because the baby is crying. Acknowledge that they're crying, give them the time to realize that there's also other stuff in life, not just their cry. Okay, they learn how to be patient, right? And then when you go from that to when they say, I need something, I want something, then you start asking for them to contribute, that they have to be active participant in getting what they want or what they need. That they start developing the sense of pride and ownership in what they are actually trying to acquire. And that's why when they transition to become human being, a fully matured human being, they grow with this sense of joy of accomplishment, which actually transition to that resiliency, because resiliency requires an active participation in everything you do. You can't be on the sideline and just say, oh, I learned that this is what resilience is all about. No, you built it over time, just like we were talking about those experiences. So my recommendation would always be, really fundamentally the key thing here is resiliency, and it has to go through life experiences, and that's how you can become a very unstoppable teenager and also unstoppable human being.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And two things that, as I was listening to you, that came to mind as well, that I think sometimes is missing,
Yes.
because we're taught to, many of us are very cognizant of not being selfish. I
Yes.
think the teens are oftentimes uh, mislabeled as, to some degree. I mean, it is about them and them figuring
Correct.
out that that's appropriate development, so to speak.
Correct. Correct.
But it can be misidentified as is really self-absorbed, or there's just that more of a derogatory
Mm-hmm.
connotation.
Mm-hmm.
And what I loved about what you said was to take ownership and to have
Absolutely.
pride. And I think
Yes.
part of that is to give yourself acknowledgement
Yes.
of your accomplishment or what you've
Correct.
learned. And again, I think that's just something that is easily missed because we
Yes.
just we're not used to that. It's fine to give compliments. It's not
Yes.
so much okay to give ourselves a compliment.
Yes.
And that's important, because when we can rely on ourselves,
Yes.
be aware and kind of celebrate our own acknowledgments and accomplishments, then we don't need to be looking for it outside of ourselves.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
then the outside doesn't also need to do then the outside pressure, all these outside uh, happenings would not really try to influence us, because we are rooted into our own identity. We know who we are. Okay. When you know who you are, the value that you represent, the person that you are, nothing else, you don't really need much. All you have to do is express that human being, those value, that gift of yours. Okay. And that is the foundation, getting to know yourself and
Absolutely.
growing. So I agree.
Yeah. And I think knowing your values helps to, and your strengths, your gifts, and
Yes.
even your purpose,
Yes.
helps teens to have the confidence that when those fears start creeping up, to say, no, I'm
Yes.
not going to give into that. I'm going to step over the
Yes.
edge, take a positive risk, and go for it, because I'm worth it. And to really
Absolutely.
believe that, right? So I think
Yes.
that's with what you were saying about taking ownership, and also that leads to responsibility. You're
100%.
acknowledging yourself for the great things you've done. It's easier to also be able to say, yeah, I made a mistake.
Yep.
Okay, I'll learn from it and do
Yes.
something different next time. But if we're not really aware and we're not giving ourselves the acknowledgement for the good stuff, then I think we're not as confident. And when we're not as confident, we take it very personally, or we don't want to admit or take responsibility for our mistakes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100% well said.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
And I also, the other thing that you had mentioned about not jumping right in with the crying infant, or there's other things to kind of pay attention to, and just as our children grow up, not
Mhm.
jumping in. I agree,
Yes.
and rescuing them or bailing them out,
Yes.
because again, as we said earlier, it's disempowering. But the
Yes.
other thing that made me think of um, is delayed gratification. And I
Yes.
think in the age of technology, the internet, everything is so fast, everything is so immediate, that our younger generation now, um, that's a struggle for them they get
Yes.
frustrated easier, I think,
Yes.
because they're not used to waiting
Yes.
for that reward, so to speak. They're so
Yes.
instant gratification. So um, how do you see that can be, you know, is uh, detrimental might be too strong of a word, but you get my
Yes.
gist of
Yes.
is that not really serving our youth?
100%. I think the best way of learning about life is to observe life itself, right? So think about a farmer, somebody who owns a farm, right? They go to the farm, they take these, they have some grains of corn. They put that grain of corn into into the soil. They don't harvest that corn the same day.
Mhm.
It takes time, and it takes effort. You need to water it. You need to care for it, right? So that's how life unfolds. So for my friends and teenager and kids, and I just want them to understand that life unfolds in following specific laws of nature.
Mhm.
So trying to go against this law, for instance, this notion of delayed gratification, which nature tells us that how it functions, is going against the law. You just can never win. So it's in the best interest to learn how to seed,
Mhm.
care,
Mhm.
just like think about the farmer. They have to go and remove the bad weed and care for the whole thing and take time until the day that they have to harvest. And when that day comes, it's the day of joy, of reward, of gratification, which is that delayed gratification. So for all the teens, they just have to observe that how nature wants us to live.
Mhm.
And then you understand that instant gratification is not in your best interest. It's that simple.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I love again, I come back down to like the values, the voice, trust, and being
Yes.
in alignment. So
Yes.
if you're clear on your values, for example, and
Yes.
you're show up pretty
Yes.
consistent and congruent with
Yes.
those values,
Yes.
your choices are based on that,
Yes.
then the wait doesn't seem so frustrating because you know that you're taking simple steps in the
Yes.
process to get
Yes.
there, to reap
Yes.
that
Yes.
reward. So,
Yes.
but I think sometimes when we don't have that as our base,
Hmm.
we're just kind of shooting here and shooting there, and then we get impatient, we get frustrated, we feel like we're stuck, and all those things. And really, if we're just take time to just know what we know,
Yes.
and then choose and then take those steps, those action steps, I
Yes.
think can really,
Uh,
really, I don't know, just calm down the nervous system. I
yes. Not only that, if I may, just
Mhm.
let me add something that is very vital and critical. Is the power of attraction.
Mhm.
So just think about you being frustrated.
Mhm.
That's what you're putting out into the universe. What do you think that you're going to attract?
Yeah, for
More frustration or
Mhm.
more reasons to be frustrated.
That's right.
So that's why it's critical and very important to follow exactly what you laid out.
Mhm.
That knowing your value and being consistent with those values as you move forward. So being consistent is just similar to that farmer who goes and always make sure that the farm is impeccable.
Mhm.
That is what you're doing. You're taking care of your own farm, which is your own self.
Yes.
So I 100% agree with you. That's very well said.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah. And it isn't selfish to do so. I mean, I
no,
cannot emphasize that
no, 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 no.
enough because if we're full and in empowered place, we are inspiring others
Absolutely.
themselves as well, and to embrace um, their values and strengths and contribute that to the world
I
just
co-
by you being you, right?
yes, yes. Well, if I may say very quickly, think about music, right? Harmony is the combination of different notes of music.
Mhm.
But one music has to be very unique, different from the other. Otherwise, you will never have harmony.
Mhm.
So if you are a teenager and you want to be part of a very harmonious society, you have to cultivate that human being that you are and be the best self.
Mhm.
So that by the time that you present yourself in a society in combination of others, we can have this beautiful group of human beings that offer the best self. It's just like a bouquet of flowers,
Mhm.
you know. That's how, if we were to learn how to become ourselves, grow our identity, become our best self, and together we become that harmonious human species. You know what I'm saying? So nature teaches us all these things that we already know. We just have to observe and learn from it.
Uh, I love that. And I've never heard that analogy, and especially with music. And
Yes,
so that's one that I will definitely pass on. That was
absolutely.
just uh, deeply moving, I guess.
Yes.
What I want to say. And clear, like
Yes.
true to form, because you're
Yes.
known for simplicity and clarity, and
Yes.
we all can use that for sure.
Yes.
Okay, so what are uh, a tip or two that you have for our listeners and parents of teens?
Yeah, so if I can say very quickly, is that difficulties in life are not anyone's enemy, right? They could be your best friend in strengthening your personality, your character, and shaping your own identity. So rejecting such a helping hand from life is choosing to be eternally weak and immature, thus being useless in this creation. So that would be my first tip. So don't shy away from trouble and difficulty. They will help you definitely. And the second tip is that spiritual maturity is the purpose of life ultimately, right? So that what that means, as I mentioned earlier, there are two aspects, two dimensions of our own life. We have to aim for that higher one, which is the spiritual one. So the path to reach a goal is indicated by our unique talent, and the passion that we have for that talent to be discovered is what we must follow.
Mhm.
Okay. Because as we said earlier about harmony, we cannot all follow the same path. We
Mhm.
can never be the same one and identical human being. So
Right.
that's why it's very important that everybody follow their own path so that we can become very mature individual and form a better society that brings us together. And in our differences, we can form something that is extremely beautiful and harmonious.
Mhm. Wow, this vivid image of a beautiful garden
Yes.
in my mind as I was hearing you
Yes.
on that tip.
100%.
Yeah. Wow.
So
That's very nice. And you've written a book, or you're in the process of writing a book. Can you tell us the title and
yes.
share a little bit about what it's?
Yes. So yes. So the book that I've actually written, but is still in the process, is called "Stolen, Not Deprived," and the book was written primarily for my daughters. As you rightfully said, so into the introduction is that I went through a divorce where I lost everything, and to include even the custody battle. So the reason why I wrote the book is primarily just, life is very full of surprises. Should I can never guarantee that I will be here tomorrow, but should something happen to me to the point where I'm not able to see my daughter, I want them to get to know me as a person and also try to have a sense of what happened. And my love for them, they also need to fully understand that while, my love for them was stolen, it's never deprived in my heart. So that's why I truly wanted to write that book for them to understand that should anything ever happen.
Ah, beautiful, beautiful.
Yes.
Wow, what a gift. What a gift. It makes my eyes tear up,
Yes.
actually. Um, ah, beautiful.
Yes.
So, again, you have a radio show on Voice America,
Correct.
and that's Revelations and Wonders,
Yes.
Secrets to Life and Happiness.
Correct.
And also, if you could share your website, and I
Yes.
just want to remind the listeners that you can go to his website,
Correct.
listen to his show, and
Yes.
that way, not only will you get all the valuable information that he shares on the website as well as during the show, but
Correct.
you will be um, the first to know about when
Yes.
this phenomenal book is released, because I
Yeah.
will definitely be buying a copy.
Yes.
So I will pay attention
Yes.
so that I'm in the know. But
Yes.
yeah. So what is your website?
Yes, my website is www.revelationsandwonders.com. It's in one word, revelationsandwonders.com. It's also very consistent with the title of the talk show, as you mentioned. So
Mhm.
yes.
Mhm. And what day and time is your guest time is kind of, um,
Yes, generally it's on Mondays at
yeah,
10 a.m. Pacific time.
okay.
Yes.
So they just go to Voice America and there's a search and they can put in the
Yes,
title?
yes, it's the empowerment channel on
Okay.
Voice America. Yeah, yes, Voice America. Yes.
Okay.
And
Nice.
in the good thing with that would be also if anyone would have questions regarding everything that I've said in the you know either the show, the website, or whatever, knowledge is absolutely worthless unless you share it. So
Mhm.
that's my fundamental belief. And that's why I was so happy to come to your show, truly, honestly, because what you're doing is, what the world ought to be doing, sharing knowledge,
Mhm.
providing the wisdom so that we can build a society that is good, not only for you and me, but for everybody else. And it takes little things that, like what we're doing right now, sharing knowledge.
Mhm. Very well stated. And again, I'm so grateful to have you as a guest on the
Yes,
show. I hope you'll consider coming back because
absolutely. Anytime.
so much more to get to.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, thank you very much. I'll have his radio show as well as the website link in the show notes as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time and the opportunity. And anytime you need me here, I will be here.
Ah, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.